Welcome to another installment of Mr. Shuck's Flipped ELA. Today we will be taking a look at the introduction to a Greek and Roman mythology unit. We will be looking at pages 496 through 499 in the textbook. We will be adding some academic words in our notebooks. We will be discussing why we read mythology, the uses of mythology, and some of the gods and goddesses that will play a role in the myths that we read. We're going to begin on page 496, the myths of Greece and Rome. It is hard to imagine what our civilization would be like without the mythology of ancient Greece and Rome. The ancient immortals are still around us in spirit. You might even pass imitations of their houses almost every day. Whenever you see a large building with many columns holding up a roof, you are looking at an imitation of a Greek temple. If you go to any one of the great museums of Europe or America, you will find statues and paintings of classical gods and heroes, as many as you will find of characters and events from history. If you read poetry in English classes, you will come across references to such ancient places as Troy and Carthage. You will read references to such monsters as the Sirens and the Cyclops, to such gods and heroes as Poseidon and Odysseus, whose Roman name is Ulysses, Athena and Hercules. These are all names from mythology, names that poets and artists expect us to recognize. So for our next step to the lesson, we will add some academic words to our notebooks. Remember that our academic words in this case are going to be words that are related to the study of mythology. And remember that you can pause the video at any time in order to copy down these definitions. So first of all, we need to talk about myths. A myth is basically a story that explains something about the world. At one point in time, the myths of ancient Greece and Rome were believed to be true. They are always, in some sense, religious. In order for it to be considered a myth, it needs to involve the gods and the goddesses. An origin myth is one particular type of myth that explains how something in the world was created. A moral is a lesson that is taught. We need to be careful because a lot of people confuse a moral with a theme. A moral is not a theme. A moral is a lesson. A theme is a central idea that gets repeated. Many of the myths of ancient Greece and Rome contain morals and lessons about the right way to behave. A quest is a long, perilous, or dangerous journey in pursuit of something of great value. A hero is basically another name for a protagonist. Heroes in mythology tend to have superhuman qualities. An epithet is a vivid description of something, someone, or somewhere. Epithets usually appear immediately after the person, place, or thing that is being described. An example of an epithet from the Iliad is Hector, tamer of horses. An example of an epithet from the myth of Hercules is the cliffs of Delphi, where eagles circle all day. You can see that the description of the topic comes immediately after the topic is mentioned. So why do we read mythology? We read ancient mythology to give us an insight into the cultures and customs of these people. In this case, we are reading about the ancient Greeks and the Romans, so we are looking at their ancient customs and societies. These cultures gave us many valuable parts of our own society, such as astronomy, mathematics, philosophy, agriculture, medicine, monetary systems. Even our systems of government and law are derived from the ancient Greeks and Romans. We are now going to turn back to page 496 in the textbook to look at the Makers of Myths section. Most of the myths you will read here originated in the area around the Mediterranean Sea. The early myth makers would not have known how to write. These old myths were passed on orally from generation to generation by the many tribes that traveled through or lived in what is now Greece and Western Turkey. By the 2nd century BC, the Romans had conquered the Greeks and had adopted the Greek myths. The Romans added a new cynical tone to the old stories. This tone reflected the fact that the Romans were less serious about religion than the Greeks were. What was mythology used for? Mythology was used originally to explain the creation of the world. Another use of mythology was to explain natural phenomena such as earthquakes, thunder, lightning. Mythology was used to give a story to ancient religious beliefs, to teach morals and lessons, and to teach Greek and Roman boys how to become good citizens. We're now going to talk about some of the gods and goddesses that will play a major role in the myths that we are going to read. Zeus is the king of the gods. He ruled over the sky and weather. He lives on Mount Olympus with the other gods and goddesses. Hera is the wife of Zeus. Apollo is the god of the sun and archery. His twin sister, Artemis or Diana, is the goddess of hunting. Hades or Pluto is the god of the underworld. Persephone is his wife, and she rules as the queen of the underworld. Demeter is the mother of Persephone. She is the goddess of agriculture. Athena is the goddess of wisdom and war. Poseidon or Neptune is the god of the sea, and Hermes or Mercury is known as the messenger god. According to the Greek myths, the divinities lived on Mount Olympus. Many of them, however, traveled down to spend time with ordinary people. To the myth makers, a god or goddess was a powerful being, often identified with a force of nature. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow my page. If you smell what the shuck is flipping.